few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
The January legislative session is coming up next month. Representative Mike Hope has been all over the news talking about his jock tax bill, and the Arena Task Force has been well documented. So let me hit rewind and reiterate the KeyArena is the solution, because the KeyArena was the original problem. With KeyArena, the Sonics had the worst lease deal in the NBA, period, point blank. Not a deteriorating arena, not too few suites, not narrow concourses. The problem with KeyArena, when Barry Ackerley sold the team to Howard Schultz, the Sonics had the worst lease deal with the city of Seattle than any other NBA team in any other city. That is indisputable. Equally indisputable is the fact that Howard Schultz shoulda, coulda, woulda made purchasing the Seattle Sonics and becoming the steward of the public trust. Sorry about that, but I had to throw that in. But doesn't it sound ridiculous in hindsight? But I'm running a Sonics MIA campaign, and that's how it all started. When the Coffee Czar of the world, who's based in Seattle, stated he wanted to take on the responsibility of being the self-appointed steward of the public trust that was the Seattle Sonics. Seattle's first professional franchise with a long entrenched history and tradition and a world championship under its belt. And he coulda, shoulda, woulda made purchasing the Seattle Sonics contingent upon negotiating a more favorable lease with the city of Seattle, and presto, all's good in the Lower Queen Anne neighborhood. But he didn't, and KeyArena's lease grew into a big problem for him. So Coffee Man sprang into action with his "I'll get $200 million from the state to fix up the Key" plan. It didn't work, and he sold the Sonics. And in my estimation, the rest doesn't matter. But if you don't know what happened, you should watch Sonics Gate. But Sonics Gate is the epilogue, like in a Quinn Martin production of the FBI. The story of the Sonics missing in action begins and ends with KeyArena. So fast forward to the current discussion of building a new arena. If the coulda, shoulda, woulda had played out in a done deal, if a new KeyArena lease was done, the Sonics would be playing in KeyArena this season with the same concourses, the same seats, the same suites. But if the Sonics are truly going to return, and for that to happen, a bigger arena is necessary, and a task force has been putting their heads together for the proposed $170 million arena solution. And the president of Arena Solution, Brian Robinson, is on record with a plan to refigure Seattle Center to enlarge the footprint for KeyArena, not to mention launched an initiative to keep the Sonics playing in KeyArena, and the 50th anniversary of the Seattle Center is next year. I move that KeyArena be the focus of that $170 million. We have the opportunity to turn back the hands of time and put everything back like it was. So why in the world would real Sonic fans stand by and watch an arena built somewhere else? For me, as a Sonics fan, this isn't about the NBA returning to Seattle. It's about restoring the Sonics to Seattle. In the words of ServPro, like it never happened. So that whenever it does happen, whenever Seattle's long national nightmare of going from a 3-sport town to a 2-sport town at the sake of its first team is over, and the Supersonics triumphantly returned to Seattle, I'm the type of Sonics fan that wants to kick it in the Sonics neighborhood of Lower Queen Anne and then head over to the Seattle Center and go to a Seattle Sonics game as usual in the Seattle Coliseum / KeyArena and experience the new Sonics memories where the old Sonics memories live. And I can't be the only Sonic fan that feels that way. Now, it's one thing for Howard Schultz, Mayor Greg Nichols, Clayton Bennett, and NBA Commissioner David Stern to collude and upset the apple cart in Seattle. But it's another to allow them to forever change our Seattle Sonics way of life. Think about it. Like I said, the KeyArena was the original problem, and the KeyArena is the solution. And not just for the Sonics, but for the next 50. Is there a second on the motion?
The one, the only, Commando Dave.